May was a long month. A lot happened, a couple of bank holidays, royal baby, but we're not going to talk about any of those. We're going to look at essentially our top 3 industry moments from May.
Superb, let's go.
So I think one of the first things for me that really stands out is the fall of Jamie's Italian, and obviously now they've gone into liquidation. I think it's over like 1,000 job losses across the country, and I think it just goes to show that it's not just a case of talking to your audiences. You really constantly need to be listening to your audiences, evolving, reacting in real time to what they're asking for and what they want and need. And that's where the independents, I think, really thrive, because they're able to listen and react quickly.
Looking at Manchester, these crazy Pedros and Rudis who are constantly telling their stories online and creating the dining experience as something that is ultimately very shareable.
I think that's the other thing, yeah. It's all about experiences. If you've got an experience, people are then more likely to share it, and they're going to do some of that broadcast messaging for you organically, which we know has got more power because people believe people. An example of how what we've done with Pizza Hut has worked really well. We're using social media to tap into our audiences, listen to what they want, and help work with the product teams to put in developments such as like vegan pizzas, removal of plastic, and it just goes to show that social media isn't just a tool that is about broadcasting to your audiences, but it's a tool that you can really use to listen to your audience and then affect your wider business strategy, such as like product development, and really then start affecting the commerciality of a business. So the other thing which what I wanted to chat about, really keen to get your thoughts on, is advertising in WhatsApp. I know how I feel about this, but how do we think the public are going to feel about this? Are they going to care? Are they going to notice?
WhatsApp has traditionally been a private messaging app.
And they promised it was going to be private as well, didn't they?
Yeah, and I do think that Facebook's quite savvy, and it's not going to all of a sudden burden the user with loads of advertisements, but I think it's just the very fact that advertising is going to start infiltrating the user experience and start featuring more and more in an app that was traditionally a private messaging app. I think that's going to cause some concerns.
Yeah, I think that question of privacy is going to maybe make people consider migrating to other platforms. Maybe not straight away, but I think slowly, certainly as other generations start using social media in the same way we've seen that migration from Facebook to Instagram. I can see those future generations starting to maybe not use WhatsApp so much, looking for alternatives, maybe such as like Signal, or maybe ones that haven't even been invented yet.
And the third and final point is Facebook groups. So at the F8 conference, Zuckerberg was telling us about how Facebook is going to have much more focus on private groups and these private communities, and they're going to feature more on the news feed. How do you think that's going to impact, and how do you think it's going to impact the conversation about privacy and advertising and stuff like that?
I think it's a very similar point to advertising WhatsApp. I think it will probably start making people more aware again that they're being advertised to, that their privacy is a little bit less private than they thought it was. But I think the biggest thing that this is going to throw up really is just to prove again how difficult it is going to be to regulate these platforms, because they're evolving continuously. As soon as you set some kind of ground rules, you're going to have to evolve them. And whilst we know that the government are working now to regulate these platforms, I think it's proving an ever more difficult task. And over the next year, I'm really looking forward to seeing how they're going to deal with that.
Although this group thing is a good thing, and it's something that's going to give us a much more personalised experience on Facebook, ultimately we know that our data is being processed. So if I join a Facebook community group for guitarists in Manchester, or Simpsons fan club or whatever, I know that data and the experience I'm having in there is ultimately going to be processed, and everything I see and do in that community group is going to be used.
From a brand perspective, it's going to be a really useful tool, because again, it comes back down to this listening to your audience, and there's going to be a lot richer insight in those groups.
The amount of data that we can process of the individuals that use the platform is so great for our targeting, and what that means for us is we can create content that is super relevant. So the position of these, the emphasis on groups is something that could potentially have a profoundly positive effect on the way we market to our consumers, which is a great thing.